Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I just want to do a little cozy sit down chat with you guys about my recent travel to Puerto Rico. I've been getting some questions on my Instagram and from friends about what it was like, how much it cost to travel, what the weather was like. So I thought I could just sit down and do a little travel guide for you guys. I'm gonna be covering everything in this video, including how much it cost, what the current travel restrictions are, where we ended up staying, and all the activities that we did while we were there. So stick around till the very end, and before I get started, I want to say quickly, if you can hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, that would be amazing. Let's start with the restrictions related to travel to Puerto Rico. When I traveled there in February 2021, they did require a proof of a negative PCR test. This PCR test should have been done in the 72 hours prior to your flight. If it was an older test, it wouldn't really be counted. So I got tested 2 days before my flight, and they also need you to pre-fill a declaration form for the Puerto Rican government that covers detailed answers from your proof of negative COVID test, the place you'll be staying, what dates you're traveling to and back from Puerto Rico. Now let's talk about the visa requirements to travel to Puerto Rico. Here's a quick history lesson. Over the years, there have been several unsuccessful attempts by the French, by the Dutch, and by the English to take over Puerto Rico. But until 1917, Puerto Rico remained a province of Spain. But after the Spanish-American War, the Puerto Ricans received US citizenship, and to this day, Puerto Rico is considered as a US territory. And so when it comes to your visa, if you're a US citizen or you have a valid US visa, you do not need a separate visa to fly to and from Puerto Rico. So as long as you're traveling directly between any state in the US and Puerto Rico, you should be okay on the visa front. If you're a US citizen, you don't even need to carry your passport. Just bring like a valid government ID. For anyone that is not a US citizen like myself, I did bring my passport because that did have my valid US visa, and that was it. Now coming to what part of Puerto Rico you should stay in or where you should visit. Now this mainly depends on the kind of vacation you want. A lot of travelers decide to stay in San Juan, and San Juan is divided into Old San Juan and New San Juan. Now Old San Juan is amazing. It's very beautiful. It has beautiful, colorful buildings full of Spanish colonial architecture. The streets are like all cobblestone, and so it feels like you're in a movie almost. New San Juan, however, is super urban. It has luxury hotels. It has all these beachfront resorts, which includes the Condado, the Ocean Park areas. And so if you prefer a vacation where you're mostly just relaxing at the hotel and the beach, this could be a good option for you because you'd still be 20-minute Uber ride away from airport as well as Old San Juan, which you should definitely visit during some part of your trip because it's so beautiful. Now if you like water activities like surfing, snorkeling, scuba diving, there's two other options. You could stay at Rincon or Isla Verde, which are both beautiful beach towns. I didn't go there, but I really thought they were so beautiful. And the other option is to stay at one of the islands. So Puerto Rico has several beautiful islands. There's Culebra, there is Vieques, there's Fajardo. These are all small islands and they're kind of remote, and so the only way to get there is through a ferry or a local flight. If you're looking to have mainly like a vacation where you're surrounded by beautiful beaches, nature, just not a lot of people, and also some water activity, you should definitely consider staying at like an island or one of these beach towns. For us personally, we did spend a few days in Culebra because we kind of just wanted to switch off and relax, and Culebra also has flamenco beach, so we definitely wanted to see that, and so we spent some days there. And the last part of our trip we spent in Old San Juan, and it was amazing. Now diving in a little bit deeper, for the first part of the trip we stayed in Culebra. We booked an Airbnb for our time there. It was a beautiful cabin style Airbnb with a nice like outdoor area, a hammock, 2 bedrooms. If you haven't watched my Culebra vlog yet, it's already live on my channel, so I will link it up here, but I go through the entire house tour in that video, and the Airbnb is also linked there and also down below. Culebra does have 2 or 3 like beachfront hotels or resorts, but those are on the expensive side, between $150 to $250 a night. And Culebra also has like cheaper hostel accommodation. Personally, all of the decent Airbnbs that I looked at in the area were around $90 to $120, and I thought that was a really good price. Now, getting to Culebra or any of the other islands in Puerto Rico is a little bit tricky right now. So how you'd usually do it is to drive or take an Uber to Fajardo, where all the ferries connect to these various islands. Right now, because of there's a restriction that says that only Puerto Rican locals can use the ferry, and so travelers or tourists cannot. So the only other option is to use the local airline to travel to these islands. They're actually really like fun little flights which have like a 8 to 10 passenger capacity, and you have to let them know your weight, you have to let them know how much your luggage weighs, all of that, and it's like a very like personal experience. You also get to fly over some of the most beautiful views that I have ever seen, and these flights individually cost about $100 to $120 to fly between San Juan and one of these islands. From New York to San Juan, we had a 1-hour layover in San Juan, and then we had a connecting Cape Air flight to Culebra. Directly between New York and San Juan, the flights are about $200 to $300, which I think is a great price. I highly recommend that you spend 2 to 3 days in Culebra, but if you're not able to do this, there's also daily trips from San Juan where they take you on a sailboat and bring you back at the end of the day. So if you're able to do that, I highly recommend it, because when I saw Flamenco Beach, I thought it was so beautiful, so pristine. I've never seen anything more beautiful, and it was super calming. And I don't know if it was because of the pandemic, but it was also super empty. Now, if you do end up staying in Culebra for longer, you're gonna need some sort of transportation to get around. So right when you fly into Culebra at the airport, there is a Jeep and golf cart rental. I thought it was so fun that they were renting out golf carts. We did rent a golf cart. It was super simple to navigate and handle. It's actually the best way to get around, because the beaches from the actual city are all about 1 to 2 miles, and in the heat it's really difficult to walk all the time. We did try that the first day and we were so exhausted, and so I do recommend getting one of these rentals. It costs about $40 a day, so not that expensive and super convenient. I also want to talk about restaurants and food in general in Culebra, because we learned the hard way. We got there on like a Sunday evening at 7 p.m. and literally every single place on the island was closed, and we could only get ice cream to eat that night. So if you're arriving there later in the evening, especially during like the weekdays, I would really recommend bringing some kind of packed food with you. Culebra does have a decent amount of like food spots, but we did notice that because of the pandemic, most of them were temporarily closed. Now this may change in the future. Overall, throughout the island, there were only about 4 or 5 restaurants that were consistently open. I was really thankful to find this one cafe that had a lot of vegetarian options, and so I literally ate there every single day. So if you're not buying groceries and cooking your own food, make sure you're getting to the restaurant before 6 p.m. Moving on to what we actually did in terms of our activities in Culebra, one thing you need to do is, of course, go see every single beach there. There's different beaches. There's about 5 different ones that we saw. The most beautiful one I thought was Flamenco, but there's also some smaller beaches. We went to this small beach called Tamarindo, and literally 5 minutes into the water, we were swimming with turtles unintentionally, and it was so beautiful. You can also rent snorkel gear from one of the dive stores around Culebra and go snorkeling. 2 or 3 beaches in Culebra have their own coral reefs, and so if you just rent snorkel gear and swim like 5 minutes into the water, you'll be able to see these beautiful coral reefs. Saw a lot of fishes. We saw turtles, like I said, and we also saw stingrays, which was kind of scary. If you're afraid to go by yourself, they also offer like guided snorkel tours. We originally booked a guided tour, but then it got canceled because of the weather, and we ended up renting gear and going out ourselves. So now jumping into the second part of my trip, we stayed in Old San Juan. Old San Juan was so beautiful. We actually chose an Airbnb again which was pretty much in the center of Old San Juan. It was super easy to get everywhere on foot. If you do plan to do the same in Old San Juan, there's several Airbnbs available. The good ones, I would say, are anywhere between $100 to $150. Getting to Old San Juan from the airport was super simple. It was like a 15-minute Uber ride. It was super cheap too. If you're staying in Old San Juan during the entire duration of your trip, I would recommend you don't spend extra on renting a car, because Uber is your best friend. You can pretty much walk literally anywhere in Old San Juan if you're in the city. But if you do want to go to like the beaches far off, or if you want to visit like the Ocean Park or the new San Juan areas, there's some museums that you can visit. All of these places you can get to by getting an Uber, and it's all like 20 minutes from Old San Juan. So I would recommend to save that extra money that you would spend on renting a car. However, if you were staying in one of the farther towns like Rincon or Isla Verde, you would definitely need a car. Or if you were even planning to go from San Juan to one of those places, you would need to either rent a car or spend a lot on Uber to get there. Coming to food, Old San Juan is very urban. It's actually the complete opposite of Culebra. People in Old San Juan love dressing up. They are super chic, I thought. There's amazing culture there, and there's lots of different restaurant options. There is no need absolutely to be worried about food here. Restaurants here are mostly open till like 8-9 p.m. and a few are even open till like 10-11. In terms of the cost, I would say that the food and beverages were very comparable to anywhere else in America. It wasn't cheap as how maybe Cuba would be, or maybe like Mexico would be. So if you do plan on eating out for the most part, make sure you're budgeting for that, because dish anywhere between $12 to $15 every single day, twice or thrice a day, tends to add up. So make sure you're budgeting for that. Moving on to all the activities that you could do if you were in San Juan. First off, if you're staying in Old San Juan or any other area in San Juan, make sure you spend a day walking around Old San Juan just to see the beautiful architecture. There's also a street called La Fortaleza, which is like a beautiful walkway. You could previously go inside the mansion, the government mansion there, but right now it's closed due to you know what. And then there's also like a lot of restaurants. Like I said, try the authentic Puerto Rican ones, they're super good. And in Old San Juan, there's also two forts that we went to. One was called the Castillo San Cristobal, and the other one was Castillo del Moro, and we visited both of these forts. It's really cool to see because there's so much history in Old San Juan. These are forts from the times that the Spanish were fighting the war to keep Puerto Rico, and so it's really interesting. If you're into history and that kind of stuff, you'll really enjoy that. There are also some museums in San Juan. Went to the Museo de Arte Puerto Rico, which was really nice. So yeah, there's a lot of things to do just in and around San Juan. In terms of the water activities, you can actually scuba dive or snorkel anywhere like in the beaches in San Juan. But if you want to like get a better experience, I recommend like booking a scuba tour. They usually pick you up from like Fajardo and they take you to one of these islands where scuba diving is much more fun, and you get to see like various like coral reefs and fishes and stuff. So yeah, you can either scuba dive or snorkel in San Juan itself, or you can book one of these tours to go further off if you wanted to do that. Another thing that I did in San Juan was learn how to surf. It was so much fun, such great physical exercise, and like it was so challenging. I really enjoyed learning how to surf. There are surfing lessons. They're a little bit expensive. They're like $80 for about 2 hours, but we only took one surfing lesson, and then you're able to rent out surfboards on your own for like $20 for like 2 hours, and then go out on your own if you want to practice and stuff. So I recommend doing that. At least get one surfing lesson if you're a beginner or you've never done it, because we did find it very helpful not knowing anything about surfing. There's also several other things that we didn't do. There's like parasailing, there is kiteboarding. Another thing that we did do is book a day trip to El Yunque, which is the only natural rainforest in the United States. It was so much fun. The hike here was so difficult because it had been raining the past couple of days, and when we went here, there was literally no path. There's no path here. You were literally like climbing knee deep in like sludge and mud to get to the spot. And here is where we also went cliff diving. I jumped off a rock from 30 feet and it was the most terrifying thing that I've ever done, but I'm so glad I was able to get over that fear. I'm usually a very adventurous person, but for some reason this really freaked me out, but I still ended up doing it. There's also water swings, there is also like water slides. It was so much fun. I really highly recommend going to El Yunque on a guided tour, because if you're not a local, if you haven't been before, it's very easy to get lost here. I'm gonna be linking the exact tour that we used down below. It's a little bit expensive, but it also included a full other activity. Our day trip to El Yunque was also followed by a night kayaking session to the bioluminescent bay in Fajardo. Now, bio bays are literally so magical. The water has these like organisms which react to the disturbance in water by glowing up, so it's like literally seeing fireflies in the water. There's only about 5 bio bays in the world, and Puerto Rico has 3 of those, and these are all protected. Really recommend you do this, especially if you can plan it around the moon phases and go when it's darker. It's even more magical. So yeah, that's about it. That's all of the travel tips I wish I knew before I went to Puerto Rico, and so I hope if you watched this video you got something of value. If you liked this video or it helped you in some way, don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be uploading a Puerto Rico vlog very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye!